What up? What up? What up? Welcome
Yo,
back, week 2. We got not only the holiday edition with Thanksgiving, but we got a birthday edition. We got BG's birthday today, so happy birthday, B.
thanks, dude.
Yeah. How you doing today, man?
I'm good. We got to talk about this intro music though for just a second,
Yeah, let's do
because it sounds like I'm about to join a European singing competition. And so we'll talk. We'll talk later.
Yeah, we'll keep
People can send in their requests for what they think the intro song should be.
Yeah, we'll keep evolving. We'll eventually get our own song.
Ooh,
The intro every time. So
yeah, I'll bet Richard Barron will write you a clip.
I was gonna say you can probably put like a poll or like a invite. Like, hey, if you think you can make a great intro song for us,
There has to be a JUCO player that wants to be a hip hop artist instead.
I think there's a million of them. Let's be, but we gotta find the right one that can come up with a track, and then we play it every time.
There we go.
All right, we got a special lineup again. Kind of an assistant coach lineup today. We got James Miller, first associate head coach from New Mexico State, conference champion pretty much annually. I call him DJ Khaled because all he does is win. I called him that way back in the day when he was in JUCO as a head coach at New Mexico Junior College. He's coached some great players at all levels. He's won everywhere he's been. Looking forward to having him. So we're going to get straight to it and add him in. James, what up, man?
What's up, guys?
Yo.
Welcome to the studio, man. How's it going out there? Now you're not in New Mexico. For those that don't know, tell people where you are and what's going on in your world right now.
Yeah, so the last 10 days, because we weren't able to play games and practice in New Mexico, we've kind of relocated our whole operation to Phoenix, Arizona. So staying at the Grand Resort in Phoenix. It's a good setup. Honestly, it's been great so far, but obviously we might have a couple more months of this ahead of us.
Oh, man.
So everybody doesn't follow your level necessarily or your split place. Tell people why you're there and what's going on that made you guys go to Arizona.
So our governor in New Mexico, because the cases had risen so much in our county, said that we were unable to practice and or play in groups of more than 5. So for the last couple of weeks, we were unable to practice outside of 5-on-0. And so initially our administration said, hey, we'll bubble you guys up. We'll put the guys in on-campus houses. And then that, test 3 times a week. Really, it was as safe as you possibly could be at the college level, in our opinion. And then that was kind of thrashed. So therefore, the next thing was to take the show on the road. So the reality of it is we moved our whole operation. We have everybody on the team, everybody in the program, families will be in and out. They have to be tested to come in, and trying to create a bubble-like atmosphere here in Arizona. So our plan is to, for at least through Christmas, and hopefully the numbers go down, although it's not looking that way, we'll be here in Arizona to play and practice.
Yeah, it's definitely some different times, man. I'll let BG chime in. He's just coming, so he just came off the road visiting in Provo. I'll let him talk about that too. But he's seen a little taste of this college basketball live. I haven't seen it yet this year.
Yeah, it's different. I can tell you that. I love that we have the James Miller Circus on the road. That's actually, I might need to make a graphic with that.
Like the circus on the road.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. Yeah, I mean it's a different world out there. I went out to go see our guy Gideon, and they had like a 60-foot long like virtual fan board in the arena there. I'm like, I don't know if that's going to be in a lot of arenas this year. But it was weird watching a basketball game with 20 other people in a 20,000 seat arena.
Absolutely.
So different deal. So what we got to ask James, how's the food? I mean, that's what we ask all the NBA guys in Bubbleville. And
well, the food's been great because we just cater it in for most meals, or for breakfast kind of have the continental setup where there's a whole bunch of things to choose from. So
you have In and Out twice a day?
Yeah, they'll just have somebody deliver it, so there's as little as contact. And we haven't had In and Out yet. I got to talk to our strength coach about that. But hopefully that's soon. Yeah, he's got to get on it. But other than that, no, that's been good. I mean, anytime you get three free meals a day. I'm happy. They're happy. We're all good.
Hey, the JUCO dudes are like, this is way better than our JUCO setup.
No question.
Yeah, anybody complaining, James has some stories for you.
Exactly.
How are you keeping the guys? I mean, again, we haven't had any Division I guys on yet that have had to deal with the things you guys are dealing with. How are you able to keep the guys focused? I mean, you guys have won the WAC championship the last 2 years. I know you're pushing to go to the tournament again. How do you keep the guys focused? I know they're ballers, so they're about ball, but how do you keep them focused with all the stuff that's going on?
Well, Coach does a good job of reminding them that, when we get to games, which is now, nobody's going to care whether we were shut down or not. So we have to do what we can do and control what we can control. So, like you said, our guys love ball. They love ball. They're ballers. So the good thing here is we have 24-hour access to a gym. They set up a court and a ballroom for us, so they can just slide their card and get in there at any point, day and night. And when you're away from home, it's an extended business trip, no different than when you take a 3-day road trip. Ours just might be 3 or 4 months long. So I think our guys are pretty focused because they're so excited to start playing again.
For sure. Tell people a little bit of your JUCO background, man. You were in JUCO as an assistant. I think I had one of the guys you had, Mr. Mark Little from New Mexico Junior College.
Yeah.
Colorado. Started at Colorado State, similar to Brandon. I don't know if you guys were there similar times, but tell people a little bit of your story and how you got to where you are and your JUCO route.
Yeah, I graduated college in 2005 and then worked at Division II for 4 years as an assistant directly after college. And then from there, I went to New Mexico Junior College, and I went there in 2009 as an assistant coach. I worked under Chris Tift, who's now at Central Michigan, as an assistant. And, it was a very rewarding experience. I was there for 3 years as an assistant coach, and we took over a program when Coach Tift first got there and hired me a couple months later, where they hadn't been winning at an elite level like they had, probably 10, 11 years before that. And so the first 3 years, we were in the trenches together, Coach Tift and myself, and slowly but surely started turning it around. And then Coach Tift moved on to TCU under Trent Johnson, and then I was fortunate enough to become the head coach in New Mexico Junior College. And so I was there for 3 years as a head coach, 6 years as overall, and we had great success. We were able to get the Hutch a couple times, had many players go Division I to every which conference you can think of, and had a lot of fun. It was a very rewarding experience for many reasons. But yeah, junior college is spending 6 years in it has shaped myself and molded me into who I am today for sure, especially starting, Division II and junior college. All I really know up until the last couple of years is this small college life. And so, staying at a resort in Arizona is like vacation to me.
Yeah, different deal. You, when you left New Mexico Junior College, that's when you went to Arkansas State. Yeah.
I went to Omaha, Nebraska, UNO for a year.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So yeah. And Pat Eberhardt, who I worked for, was my boss at CSU Pueblo when I first started, was an assistant at Omaha. So it's kind of like a reunion 6 years later. But yeah, I was at Omaha for a year and then went to Arkansas State when Grant McCasland got the job.
Yeah. I think that first year is when you and I met.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At Jerry's event.
Yep. In Mullins. Yep. Exactly. So was at A-State for a year. Then we were fortunate enough to win enough games there. Then Coach McCasland got the North Texas job and he brought us all along, which we were all grateful for. And I was there for a year and then ended up back in New Mexico somehow, full circle the following year.
Yeah, talk about you had a tweet that that we put out when you did your interview with All Access Coach's Corner that why you love JUCO, and it almost went viral. It's pretty close to viral status. You talked about why you love JUCO, so let's talk a little bit about what about junior college basketball. We're kind of doing JUCO Appreciation Month. What about junior college basketball do you love in particular?
Yeah, like I've talked about before, the purity of JUCO ball, the limited politics involved, guys trying to, make something of themselves in their careers, both in the classroom and on the floor, is something that I really cherished and trying to help those guys along in those journeys. You really don't have a lot of times, especially when kids come from high school, great foundations oftentimes to be successful, the next 2 to 4 or 5 years of college. And so I really embraced being one of those guys that could help build their foundation and make it more steady, I guess you'd say, so they could be successful after I coached them in junior college at New Mexico Junior College. So I think there's nothing more rewarding, and I think you see it on Brandon's face when he talks about Gideon. There's nothing more rewarding than helping kids get to the next place and then get a degree and then have some success on the floor. And obviously there's going to be different levels and varying levels of success. But the fact that these kids are even getting 4-year scholarships, get to play on TV, get to play typically in front of thousands and thousands of fans, that in itself is a huge success. And so that's why it was so special to me and still is special to me.
It was interesting the first time I met James, because I mean, he was literally one of the first coaches that I spent any time with outside of Ross Hodge and Leonard Perry. And, being around Ross, especially knowing that JUCO background and stuff, like kind of getting to see a window into like a JUCO guy, and then being around James that first weekend, like I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anything. I'm still not sure how much I know, but to just an incredibly humble person, somebody that you can tell does it for the right reasons and all that sort of thing, was actually like a really good experience for me to see that a lot of these JUCO guys, Jace Hurl was there, and another JUCO guy, somebody that does the stuff for the right reasons. And of course we had our boy Houston Reed there as well. Big bear coming up. Never met this guy in my life. Just wraps me up in this giant bear hug and moves me. I'm like, oh, all right, this is how it's going to be. So, but no, it was great. And that was a great introduction to some JUCO people down at Jerry's event there, to kind of really see that, like, how special that world is.
For sure. James, so you've had some guys that played at the highest level from junior college, meaning, highest level Division I. You've also had some guys that you have coached that have gone on to be NBA players. Talk a little bit about New Mexico State and why you still recruit junior college. I think your entire staff has coached in junior college. Shout out to CB, Corey Barker, and also Anwar, and not to mention Coach Jans. And then so talk about both the guys you've coached that have had success, and then also why you guys still recruit junior college guys now.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough at New Mexico Junior College to coach a couple guys that went on to play in the NBA, and probably 7 or 8 others that have made really good money overseas, in different areas. But, coaching Chris Boucher his freshman year, he's one of those guys that, I talked about with the foundation. He had only played organized basketball for about 2 years when we got him. And he made great strides the first year I had him. And then he and one of his former teammates decided to move on. But it was a lot of fun coaching Chris. And he was a sponge for the game and worked nonstop and had a great attitude. And obviously, when you just signed $13+ million contract in the NBA, he's a freak of nature. We always used to call him like a unicorn. And then on that same team, we had Kenrich Williams, who was a qualifier, who was severely overlooked in high school. Only had 2 offers when we got him at New Mexico Junior College, and he was there for a year. And now he just got I think he just did a sign and trade deal with the Oklahoma City Thunder, for I think it's $6 million over the course of 3 years. So you talk about the stories, and I'm being excited for those guys. Yeah, great, they're playing in the NBA, but obviously they can take care of their families for life now, and that's what's really important. And then like I said, coach 7 or 8 other guys that were equally as talented when I coached them. Sometimes you just get a better break, or you get a little luckier. You're in the right place at the right time, or the right program, right fit, and they don't quite get to that level, but are still making a lot of money playing ball overseas and supporting their families. So,
that's one of the amazing things about junior college, right? Like you'd never heard the name Chris Boucher or Kenrich Williams without junior college.
You never would hear about those 2 guys. I mean, no. Chris Boucher was at Alma Prep, which was a brand new prep school up in the middle of nowhere in Canada, and played in a couple of tournaments, and we found out about him, and quite honestly got lucky in getting him. Obviously, we evaluated him and did a good job of recruiting him, and myself and Brian and Sean Gutting at the time were the staff. So we got really lucky. And Kenrich Williams, was scheduled to go to either Division III or Tarleton State when they were Division II. And we get him for a year, and multiple coaches told me he couldn't play in the Big 12 after he signed at TCU, and ends up being an all-league player, and has done really well for himself the first couple of years in the NBA. So yeah, without junior college, you don't hear of either of their stories amongst a lot of other guys I've coached.
Right.
And the truth be told is, you don't hear about me or talking to me without junior college, because the reality of it is nobody's trying to typically hire a Division II assistant. So you have to go to junior college and prove your worth as a recruiter and as a coach. And we were able to put New Mexico junior college back on the map after it had been down a little bit. So, junior college can catapult, players and coaches, just like, Brian just talked about. Coach Jans is a junior college guy, coach at, again, NAI, junior college to Wichita State, to the highest of the highs. And, Corey and Dave are both tremendous people who have been in junior college. So I think we continue to recruit junior college here at New Mexico State, and have had such great success because that's kind of who we are. We're not used to being coddled. We're not used to being spoiled. We're not used to having things handed to us on a silver platter. We've had to work as a group collectively for everything we've been able to get, and that funnels through Casey Owens and Ryan Stubbs, and we just have a great staff of guys that have that mentality. It's not necessarily we're all JUCO guys, but we just have the mentality of we're going to do whatever we can to scratch and claw our team and our program and ourselves individually to the best we can get to. And so junior college has been great for us because I think that resonates with guys, because we've had so many guys that we've all coached individually and collectively here that have gone on to make a lot of money playing basketball and getting their degrees.
Well, and I think too, like anybody watching this or listening to it, they hear New Mexico State's in Arizona at the Grand Resort and whatever. And it's like, oh, hold on. Like New Mexico State probably, I don't know, off the top of my head, more so than any program for years, has always had that, just workman-like drive where you guys are bringing in players that people don't talk about a lot of times, and or have really different, unique paths to how they get there and stuff. And it's a lot like junior college in the sense that the diversity of the backgrounds and everybody's different journeys, and you take and find a way to put all those together to be incredibly successful. I mean, one of the most successful programs in all of basketball in the last decade. So it's and that has continued on, when Jans took over and has remained a story on the national stage, where it's like, people are wondering who these names are that are coming through New Mexico State, and then always, end up being, big time players on a national level. I mean, Trevelyan Queen is going to make an impact somewhere, and get every opportunity to get to the highest levels. And like, just this super unique story and background where New Mexico State gave him a stage to be successful and to get to where he wants to go.
Yeah, I mean, here in New Mexico State, in the last 3 years, we've had 3 guys who were junior college players, sign with NBA teams. So I think it's like anything, we all kind of hang out or gravitate towards people like us, right? And I think Coach Jans has a spot in his heart for guys that have had to work for everything that's happened for them, and maybe they needed a break, maybe they needed a second chance, maybe they were under the radar, but he sees something special in them, the chip on their shoulder to be great players and to try to make something of their lives, both on and off the floor, and put themselves in the best position to be successful moving forward after college. And so, like you said, a guy like Trevelyan Queen, who all he needs is an opportunity. That's all he wanted. So here he is. He signs with the Houston Rockets, and now it's on Trev. It's on him to compete and get a spot. No different than anybody else. I mean, you pick first, you get a little more money than when you sign an undrafted free agent deal. But at the end of the day, you have to produce once you get there, and you have to get the chance to be in that position. So he's got the chance, and hopefully with what we've helped do and coaches helped do, and his growth and maturity that he's shown over the course of the last couple of years, he's got the ability to stick and again make a lot of money playing ball, doing what he loves.
Hey Trev, if you hear this, I'm still waiting on my T-shirt. Just FYI. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
You've had a few others. Name some of the other guys. Pascal Siakam has played at New Mexico State, not for you guys, but is a alum there. Name some of the other pros recently, and in particular, some of the JUCO dudes, because you've had a couple, like you said here recently, a handful recently as well. And then talk about some of the JUCO guys on your roster, if you don't mind, too.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, everybody knows about Pascal Siakam because he's an all-star, and he played under the previous staff, but and they did a great job of developing him. But here in recent memory, you have Zach Lofton, who played for the Pistons, who was an all-league player here, had been at San Jack, which is no longer in business, but played at San Jack and had bounced around a little bit, and then had a great year his last year here under coach. And then Jamario Jones, who played at Hill College, and he's a phenomenal rebounder. I had the displeasure of coaching against him when he was at Hill, and he put it on us pretty good. I mean, he's an elite player, and one of the best rebounders I've ever seen in person. And then you have Trev, and here now, most of our roster is made up of either Division I transfers or junior college guys. And so, Clayton Henry, who played at Palm Beach State, will be a really good player for us. Who will probably start at the 3 for us, who's improved so much. His work ethic is second to none. He's a really good player. Kalen Williams, who's from Western Nebraska, is with us. Wilford Lakai, who's from Casper Community College, is with us. And so you can go up and down, our roster. CJ Roberts, who played at Ranger last year. I mean, that's what we're going to do here. That's the makeup of this place. And it's been really, really spectacular for New Mexico State for a long time. So we're going to continue to recruit from junior college, again, because that's what resonates with us as a staff.
It's interesting. Some people that I talk to, they say, well, yeah, we're probably going to need to go look at a JUCO guy, right? Like, what does that mean? Like, I don't, okay. If you have that mentality of, I guess we got to go look at a JUCO guy, then you're not working real hard at your job. I mean, really. There's yesterday, was it yesterday? Yesterday. Sidney Curry commits to Kansas. That's the second JUCO dude to go to Kansas in the last 2 years. There's a whole litany of guys this year that are going to go to big time programs that are going to be highly impactful. Look at Vince Cole. Like, Vince Cole came out of the gate as showing like he's looking like one of the best players in the Big East this year. And he played at USC Salkehatchie, which there's about 12 coaches that can say that correctly. So it's like New Mexico State has not been, I hear people say things like, well, New Mexico State has to go, look at these JUCO guys because they can't get X, Y, and Z. And it's like, no, they want to. It's a work ethic. It's a mindset. It's the type of guys that, like you said, resonate with you. And, you've been incredibly successful with it. And that's different than the, I got to,
Right. No, those are the guys we want, Brandon. We want guys that are going to bring their lunch pail and their hard hat, and they're going to just keep chipping away and keep chipping away and keep chipping away to get a break. And hey, guys that are excited to be here because they're used to, taking charter buses 9, 10, 11 hours. If you're lucky enough, sometimes school buses, to go play games in the middle of nowhere. So I think when those guys get here, they're so thankful for what they have, and they're very thankful for what coach and our culture, has to offer. And then, most times, not every time, but most times, they really flourish here. So yeah, we could go and recruit high school guys, and we do recruit some high school guys.
For sure.
But at the same time, junior college guys they're battle tested. They've been through it a little bit. They understand, the tricks of the trade of being experienced and how hard you have to work. And most importantly, in our culture, is competing. They've had to compete just to get to this place. And so when they get here, I think they just have, as a whole, have a much better idea of what it's going to take, typically from the beginning.
It's interesting. One of the things I wanted to ask you was that transition for as many junior college players as you've recruited over the years and stuff. One of the things that does happen, there's an expectation, I think, that's put on a junior college player for coming in and being able to impact right away, more so than you would a high school kid, which is fair. I mean, they're older and have college experience and stuff, but there is still that transition time that takes a little bit there. But how do you guys, I guess, really work with those kids on speeding up that transition time? Because you have players that come in that have to play 30 minutes right away, straight from junior college, and have been successful. Whereas some other programs, you'll see guys that come in and maybe they don't hardly play that first semester, and then they play a little bit the second semester, and then their senior year or whatever, that's when everything really clicks. And I feel like sometimes there's a little bit of disconnect with coaches as far as like how to really take a player that you're expecting a lot of that has experience, but also get that transition time where they're maybe more patient with freshmen and things like that. Like, how do you guys kind of help get those wheels spinning faster?
Well, I think with our staff, because we've all been in those shoes and been around those kids at the junior college level, we understand what the growing pains are going to be, probably more so than most staffs across the country, and can help kind of, like you say, kind of push them forward a little bit quicker, in a perfect world, as they get here. And so, just film, staying in the gym, talking to them. Look, I think all of our success depends on relationships and having genuine relationships with these young men when they get here. And it's not just what I would say transactional. Hey, you run over here, you do this. Hey, all right, see you later, man. I'll see you tomorrow at practice. That's not how we operate here. And look, I think we all kind of function with that, what I would say is small college where, we've all worn every different hat as we've grown in this profession. And so we're not above rebounding for guys. We're not above, having a meal with them and sitting down and talking to them at McDonald's. That's just the reality of who we are as a staff and the people that Coach Jans have put together here.
Yeah.
And so then therefore, I think when those guys understand how much we care about them and their success, on and off the floor here, then they understand, what it's going to take to thrive. And most times we're able to help them with that adjustment a little bit quicker than probably a lot of other places in the country.
I think that's an incredibly important piece when you talk about that relation bit and how close you actually are to the players, because there's a lot of guys that get recruited and they kind of are told like, hey, this is going to be your guy, right? Like this assistant is going to be your guy. It's like, well, what does that mean? Like what about the other guys? And there are a lot of environments that kids go into where there's this massive disconnect between either most of the staff or sometimes all the staff, especially the head coach sometimes. And I think what you guys do there where, if I were to go, call Wilfred and say, hey, how many times have you talked to each of these guys in the last 2 weeks? Like it's going to be a lot with everybody. And that's different, than I think a lot of places handle stuff. It's less, it's so cliche, but like, it's less business like, it's more family like, right?
Yeah.
I think too, from just making that transition as well as an assistant, the fact that you guys have so many guys that understand those JUCO guys, and it is a transition. A lot of guys said it takes a semester for a guy to understand how to get up to speed, Division I level, et cetera. But talk about this. I mean, you guys win championships led by traditionally more so JUCO guys. You don't have a lot of 4-year guys, so you have 4-year transfers, but majority of your good players. I've competed against New Mexico State and Christian's teams when I was at UTEP. That's a rival. And you just know one thing, those dudes are going to be hungry. They're going to be dogs. And again, you guys understand how to lead those guys through some of the off-the-court quirks that maybe some programs aren't able to do. So just talk about not only having junior college guys in your program, but you're not plugging guys in just to fill gaps. Your best players a lot of times are JC guys, and you guys are winning championships and making NCAA tournament runs with JUCO guys. So talk a little bit about that if you don't mind.
Yeah, and going back to what Brandon said at the very end, like I think one thing about our program is we don't have my guy per se. I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who signed them. They're all our guys. And none of us, thankfully, have egos to where, hey, that's my guy. Like, don't talk to my guy. And like you touched on with a lot of staffs. And for us here, like you said, Brian, we depend on junior college guys. I mean, we sign junior college guys that come in here and compete to start and compete to play a lot of minutes. The reality of it is junior college guys don't want to come here, or any school for that matter, and play 6 minutes a game as a junior. That's just very difficult to do, especially when you're coming from a program where you're used to playing, 30 minutes a night. So for us, we depend on junior college guys. That is, our recruiting base. That is typically who we're going to lean on. And again, because we've had so much success with them, and we feel like we have a staff and a culture here that coach has built, that can help usher those guys along maybe a little quicker than some places, we're okay with that. We like to be old and stay old. I think that's college basketball in general right now. Obviously, we're going to take the best players we can get, whether it's a high school senior or a junior college or a transfer, from another 4-year institution. But at the same time, the way that coach has the culture in place and his system for how he develops and brings our team along, it's very much a plug and play type situation, usually, where if those guys are very serious about basketball and trying to do the right things on and off the floor and trying to push themselves and allow themselves to be coached hard and pushed daily, then guess what? By the time the season rolls around in November, we're typically ready to go, and those guys have had success early on for us.
Absolutely. I swear, if I hear one more guy tell me I want to be old and stay old, and then tell me, oh, well, we're going to go take these 2 high school kids instead, I'm going to lose my mind.
You don't have to worry about that over here. Bro.
No.
We're on that train.
No, when you send me a message, you say, hey, I need to hear about, whatever JUCO guy I like. I know you actually want to hear about him, as opposed to, hey, coach, I'm going to spend the next 30 minutes sending you all this stuff and film and telling you about this guy or whatever. And you go, yeah, but we got this high school kid. He's great. I'm like, oh, cool.
Yeah, our time is all too valuable for that.
Right. Nothing against high school guys. I'm just saying, if the coach says they want to be old, get old, stay old, and then they go recruit the 17-year-old.
Yeah, here's your opportunity. Right, go get some guys that have been through it a little bit.
James, we'll let you go. We know you guys got game day today, right? Tonight?
Yeah. Life on the road, playing at Arizona Christian, who's number 9 in NAI. They're a really good team. We need to get ready for that one.
Yeah. We'll let you go in just a second. So last one we'll leave you with. What would you say if you had to say something you want people to understand about JUCO? Again, we're kind of in JUCO Appreciation Month, trying to get people to understand what JUCO is all about. You've done a great job of kind of walking us through that. If there's anything else misconception-wise that you want to share with us, and then if you have any funny story that's worth leaving with too, we'll leave you with those two.
That you can say on the air.
Exactly.
I would say that in regards to junior college, there is a big misconception, but I think myself and a lot of the guys we just talked about over the course of the last half hour can show people that, people from different levels, different places, different backgrounds can use junior college and thrive in junior college to catapult themselves to the next level, whatever that might look like. And, a lot of times, like anybody, I didn't play basketball in the ACC, so I wouldn't know what that's like. Well, a lot of times people haven't had any experiences with junior college, so they're quick, to doubt it or quick to really accept what it can do for people. But firsthand experience with me and the young men I've been around in junior college and have coached here in other places from junior college, it really is a great resource for everybody involved, recruiters, players, coaches. It's a great resource for everybody to be successful. So I think that, hey, if you don't embrace it, and so be it. There's a lot of other ways to go about it. There's a lot of different ways to skin a cat, right? But I think junior college can be helpful for all of us. Now, the funniest story, and he hates it every time I say it, is we're playing in this is my first year at New Mexico Junior College. We're playing in the Region 5 tournament. We had just beat, I think it was McLennan, and myself and my assistant at the time, Brian Laurie, we pop in a video, and he told me, hey, I watched this kid last night. I'm not sure you're really going to like him, but, it's probably worth you watching. And I said, okay. So we put in this video, and I watch it for about 3 minutes, and there's this guy running and dunking and like almost barely not even jumping when he has to dunk, and he's blocking shots and shooting threes. I said, Bilo, you don't think I'd like this guy? Okay, here we go. Chris Boucher. All right. 2 weeks later, he signed up with the T-Birds. Hey, and now he's a pro. So, hey, that's my best story I got for you that I can share on here. I told Bill all the time, and he hates when I remind him. I said, "You didn't think I like that guy? He's a freak. Look at that dude. Like, what's there not to like? Oh, he's kind of skinny. I don't care. I didn't care. That dude could play. So that's the one. That's the G-rated one I can share for you guys.
I love it, man. I love it. Thanks so much for coming on, man. Tell the boys I said good luck this season. Looking forward to seeing what you guys do, and you guys master adversity as well as anybody in the country. So I'm sure you guys will get that thing going with your resort living with those JUCO dudes.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. Thanks a lot.
All right, brother. Be good.
Take care.
Hi, Jay. Yeah, awesome little segment there with James Miller, man. How can you not like that guy?
He's one of the best. I mean, I was, like I said, I was fortunate enough to get to know him the first time I went to an event, the first time anything. I think I was with Hurl, and he said, "Hey, you know, let's go out, let's whatever." And it was James and Houston Reed and a few other guys, and like it was just a really good group of good people to be around that, you know, stayed good friends with since then. And I think I'm going to tell on Hank here. I think that was the same event that I wanted to introduce myself to Hank Polona, and they got dumped in the first game by Midland, I think, the Jerry Mullen deal. And Hurl is over talking to him, and I was like, "Oh, perfect. I'll go over there." And I look at Hank, and he kind of looks over at me. He has no idea who I am, and all I see is fire in his eyes. And I just kept right on walking. I was like, "Hey, Jace," and didn't say a word to Hank. Didn't meet him until the next year. And now we're good friends, but I like to tease him about like, "Hey, remember that time I almost met Hank Polona and then I chose not to."
We're going to take a quick transition commercial. Let BD get ready. He's going to talk from JUCO. I don't know if he's going to drop a JUCO advocate bomb today or not. Stay tuned. We'll be back in about 30 seconds.
Welcome to All Access Coaches Corner, where our mission is to serve coaches, share their stories, and spotlight their programs with our host, Brian Burton. A longtime successful college basketball coach, former championship collegiate point guard, husband, and father, Brian is now the Vice President of Rising Coaches Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Alliance for men's basketball, an empowerment coach and founder of B3 Legacy Sports and the All Access Network. Sports broadcaster and host for All Access Coaches Corner and All Access Sports Media, Coach Burton is now using his successes, experiences, and connections to be a point guard in the sports industry at all levels, with a mission to help others to further their success. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and join us in the All Access Coaches Corner.
I want to take time to acknowledge one of our partners, Rising Coaches. Every coach wants to rise in their career in one way or another. We're all looking for professional development, access to tools, and relationships that can help us grow and help us advance in our career. Rising Coaches provides just that. You can visit Rising Coaches at www.risingcoaches.com. Their memberships are just $10 a month and provides a genuine community to help you grow and advance in your career. All right, we're back. We do have our first podcast dropping today. Excited about the All Access Coaches Corner podcast. It'll be on all podcast streaming platforms. We're not quite at the level that the live period podcast is yet. So we'll baby step it. We'll talk about the live period podcast after I'm done talking about this. But our first episode drops today. We have Texas Tech assistant coach Uric Malagi will be the featured guest, who's been recognized 40 under 40 from ESPN and also from The Athletic. Just done a great job in his career, and is with one of the best head coaches in the country at helping his guys get an opportunity. That's Coach Chris Beard. They have another great team this year, and Chris Ogdens at UT Arlington was a former assistant, and he also has Brian Berg, who just got a job at Georgia Southern and got his first win the other day, who's also another JUCO guy. So shout out to Brian Berg, and got a couple former players playing for him. Caden Archie from Dallas representing. He had 16 in his first game, and then Grant Weatherford played for us at IUPUI and as a grad transfer. So we'll let Brandon talk a little bit about the Live Period podcast, JUCO Advocate, and then we'll get straight into some JUCO talk.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. We, I wasn't planning on doing a podcast probably ever. And then my buddy Hector Marquez, shout out Hector, got the idea rolling in my head a little bit. And then COVID hit, and it was like, well, what should I do? What can I do on the internets that will kind of keep us busy? So our guy Nick Goodwin helped Thomas and I get this thing set up and rolling, and how to do it and everything. And so anybody out there that needs graphic stuff, Nick Goodwin was our sound engineering extraordinaire. He's a fantastic artist. He's going to be doing a lot of stuff for us. So graphics, video, all that kind of thing. We got some cool stuff coming down the pike with him. Yeah, so we started this podcast, and it evolved pretty quickly. We kind of started it with like, oh, well, we'll have a coach on, and then we'll talk about their team and whatever. And we just kind of quickly realized that like, that's not necessarily like the story we want to tell. So we diversified awful quickly. I think our third episode was on human trafficking. And so we kind of dove into that space. And then, we've just got a lot of different stories that we're always trying to tell, right? Like we got NBA guys on there. We've had current college players on there. We've had, writers and, different things like that. We did an episode on the kid that played Saleh in the air up there. And, he was a former JUCO player that came over from Kenya. And so it was just an episode kind of talking about his history and the I guess the tragic tale of his story and things like that. So just different stuff that we've tried to get into and keep it fresh and different. So we got a whole lineup of cool guests going from NBA guys to some more college coaches coming up here. And we're really excited about it. So that's the live period. Anywhere you get your podcasts is out there.
Yeah, and then tell a little bit people about JUCO Advocate. I know most people on here should know, but you never know what kind of viewers we may have. So talk a little bit about JUCO Advocate before we get into some JUCO ball. Yeah,
JUCO Advocates, it's rolling and doing its thing, and we have just like a lot of different stuff that we're doing with it right now. It's a little different because we're not we're not playing JUCO games right now, so there's a lot of scouting stuff that's work that we're doing in the background as far as just seeing kids before and a lot of film things and talking to coaches and, trying to get kids as many opportunities as we can while everything's sort of on pause right now and really just kind of gearing up for 21 from a bigger company standpoint as far as some new things that are coming down the pike that we've not really talked about yet that we'll be sharing soon. But, our international thing, our international trips, I think is really going to take a big step forward next year. We're planning on, maybe 3 or 4 different countries this last year that we were going to go to and run some of our charity events that we do. So we're going to expand that probably even a little more maybe next year, assuming the world finds its butt. And then domestically too with, the undiscovered stuff that we do with a few other partners as far as some larger U.S. city-based charity events.
Yeah, I love it, man. Love it. Always innovative, always doing stuff to not only help guys get to the next level, but I love the international stuff you guys do. You have so many stories of guys that you brought and helped be a part of their success story to the country and some real players, not just guys that are on scholarship at certain levels, but some high level players and guys that have a chance to play in the NBA even. So love what you're doing and love the innovation. I mean, those that don't know, 5 years ago when JUCO Advocate came on the scene, there weren't many guys thinking that this was going to end up evolving like it has, but I love the way you've done it, man. Excited to keep working together. It's going to be fun.
I appreciate it, man. It makes watching college basketball such a different experience now too, where every single night, there's somebody that you have a relationship with, that their story, that you're rooting for. Like I've not enjoyed watching St. John's basketball ever in the way that I did watching Vince Cole, go crazy the other night. I'm headed up to Laramie, Wyoming on Saturday to go watch Owen Nelson play his first Division I game. A kid that has only been playing basketball for like 3 years. And, came over from Ireland and, I still remember the first time talking to him and I said, hey, I think junior college would be a great idea for you. And he goes, what? What's a junior college? Not a lot of Irish guys have come over in the past, but it's picking up. Irish basketball's on the come up. They actually used to be really, really good back in the 80s. And then there was kind of the Celtic Tiger thing and really focusing on traditional Irish sports and things like that. And even a sport like soccer kind of went by the wayside. And so like Owen grew up playing Irish rules football. So it was so funny. I mean, this kid's 6'10", 240 pounds. And he was just about that big when he came over to Otero and played for Cole Dewey. And I remember Cole saying like, well, just how tough is he? I said, Coach, have you seen Irish rules football? Yeah, it's basically like a rougher version of rugby. So I think he'll be okay.
I love it. Let's talk some more. We got a little bit more time for our next guest. Come on, talk some more about some of the JUCO guys, JUCO product, #JUCO product that have had some big nights so far.
Man, how about Shahada Wells the other night?
Right. He was as impressive on ESPN, main stage, playing against the #1 recruit in the country in Oklahoma State, Cade Cunningham. He was electric, to say the least.
And if I remember right, Shahada was an early signing.
He was.
Yeah. And that's a great example of some of what you can do at that level if you put the work in early. We've talked about Ross Hodge before. We're like, getting Emmanuel Amagbo to Colorado State. Well, he ended up being, one of the best players in the country by the end of the season. Colorado State wouldn't have even been in the discussion if they hadn't gotten that done early. And, I think that exists even now. Like I'm here to tell you, any of the coaches that are listening to this, 4-year coaches, and you think, well, the early signing period's done, so we're just going to sit back and we're going to do our thing. Sidney Curry just committed to Kansas after the signing period.
Yep.
You can still go get things done. You can still, especially this year where like they're not playing until the end of January, look at it as an extended signing period. No, they can't sign an LOI with you right now, but you can go out there and you can get commitments. You can go all in on guys that maybe are above your level and see what you can get. Yep. There's and you can't say, well, we haven't gotten to see it, whatever. Stop it. You have synergy. Most of the JUCO guys are on synergy. You can go back, you can watch their stuff. I mean, come on. Like you're going to have to think outside the box a little bit this year as far as like, well, I want to go sit courtside and see if they're really 6'7". Well, call 5 other people that have seen the kid play in person and, figure that out. Cause it's going to be the guys that waited and didn't do anything and had a million excuses. And they said, well, we're going to look at the transfer portal, and that's going to be chaos.
Right.
For all the guys, especially in that low to mid range that are like, well, we're just going to get these transfers. I hate to tell you, but anybody that did much of anything at their previous spot is going to have all the big boys on them first.
Right.
So, it's different this year because, let's say there was a kid from the WAC that averaged, 10-6 or something. And maybe in the past wouldn't get as many looks at the high level because they had to sit. So it was like, do I want to spend the time and the energy and whatever? Now where they're able to play right away. Yeah. Like anybody that did anything is going to be getting calls from the big guys. And that doesn't mean that you can't get a transfer, but I think it's silly to put a space like junior college where we have, everybody is essentially going to have at least 3 years to play coming out, this year, to put that on the back burner when there's so many good players just sitting out there right now. Yeah. And if you don't put the work in now, if they play at the end of January and they go out there and just start smoking guys, like, now you're in a fight that maybe you could have gotten a head start on earlier.
Yeah, and Shahada Wells was All-American, if I'm not mistaken. Junior college All-American. Shout out to Greg Young, associate coach at UTA, Snoop Johnson over there, and Coach Davis and Coach Ogden, of course, just did a great job evaluating early. And I think that goes back to what James Miller was talking about. Greg Young, a former junior college head coach at Hill and also at Jacksonville. He knew the junior college landscape, has those relationships, able to identify what's going to translate. I think that's the biggest part, is that understanding what translates. And some guys that don't have junior college experience or don't have a junior college guy on their staff, maybe they're uncomfortable. They don't understand hey, if this guy's doing this in this league against this competition, that means this translates to this. And I think even if you don't know, having enough, we all should be, or most Division I coaches have enough research, 007 investigative, private eye type of experience where you should be able to figure out, if you don't know, call enough people, do enough research, do enough homework, just like when you're scouting to figure out how to win a game. So shout out to those guys who signed him early. I know there's been some other performances, and we had another guy sign. We talked last week about Odessa with Coach Bucket. We had another former junior college guy sign a contract, Josh Gray. So shout out to Josh Gray signing his contract with Oklahoma City Thunder, if I'm not mistaken. Big time player, big time scorer back in the day, and will do a great job. Great time with Chris Paul being gone. Should have a chance to play a significant role and have a chance to keep his thing going. So yeah, talk about some more guys that you noted that had great performances that were JUCO guys.
You know, it's I was kind of just quickly scrolling through as best I could because I was on the road there. But you know, guys like Mardrez McBride, right, is another great example of a guy that you know, was at an out of the way place again at USC Salkehatchie, and you know, North Texas goes in there and gobbles him up, and right off the bat, I mean, now you've got Javion Hamlet, and I forget how many points Javion had, maybe 10, but he had 11 assists, and then you had Drez out there just banging threes, and he's super athletic, and you know, all these things, and he's a great kid, and he works really hard, and you know, North Texas just kind of walked in there and put in great work quickly and got that one done, and you know, there's another one. Yeah, it's just a guy that was under the radar, and but if you spend the time and energy into putting a lot of work into character too. Like right now is a great time to really focus on that. Like you can't watch them play games. So spend time with them on the phone. You know, the time that you would have spent watching film, spend time with them on the phone and like really dig into who these guys are, what their stories are, what their character is like. There's a lot of ball games that you can win with just tough character, hardworking guys. And I think as much as coaches talk about how they need good dudes and things like that, I still feel like it's an area that not a lot of work is put into, because it's harder to show that on you know, you can't take a character tape and pop it in for coach to watch, right? Like you feel like you need to show him.
It's not exciting. Right?
Yeah,
it's not like oh, we got enough character guys. They're just thinking about winning. You know, in those conversations with several head coaches I've worked for, where you're trying to convince them, hey, this is the guy because of these reasons. But character is not always something that they want to celebrate or want to be sold on. But it matters so much when you look at the programs that continue to win at a high level. You know, character is as important as any. I mean, Gonzaga's rolling right now. They're number one in the country. They're played Kansas just yesterday and played at such a high level. Character matters for that program. Same with a Virginia. Same with a Texas Tech, you know, who's recently had success. And, you know, just using some of those names recently. And character matters to win. And I think sometimes there's a connotation, right, with junior college that people think that character doesn't come with that. So if you're in junior, you must not have character. But there's extremely high character guys in the junior college level. And not only guys that are extremely high character, but let's be honest, we're all flawed in some way. We all have our bumps, right? So we're judging kids who are 18, 19 years old and almost putting this stamp on them like this is who you are.
For sure.
When we all need second chances, we all need time to have another opportunity. So that's the part I love about junior college in my time, and even continuing to appreciate junior college here is like everybody has a story. So to have those Jimmy Butler, for example, stories, and I know we kind of continue to talk about him, but he's one of the best stories in junior college history, is a guy who wasn't really recruited and has as high character even now in the NBA as possible. You know, Jay Crowder in that same breath, those guys were just in the finals, so they're easy targets to talk about. But some guys that are looked at as maybe because they came from junior college, oh, well, he may have baggage or he has this. It's like at the end of the day, let's figure out what is his story and what does he learn from it and where can he go here.
Well, and I think too, there's way too much emphasis put on maybe who the guys were before. You know, there are plenty of guys, and I don't even want to bring them up on here because it's not fair to them to say, well, you know, this was a kid that had questionable character and things like that going into junior college.
Right.
But you know, there are guys that can change, that have changed. There were guys that were putting up big time numbers yesterday as I was kind of going through the stuff, thinking, you know, those were kids that had this mark on them as being bad kids. And I know their coaches personally, and they've said, hey, they've been nothing but model citizens since they've been here. They learned a lot there, you know, their last year of junior college as far as, you know, maturity and all those kinds of things. I mean, for sure, there's definitely some guys that, you know, never figure it out, but that doesn't have anything to do with junior college.
Right.
I think I said last time on the show, I know plenty of jerks in high school. Like, you know, like what, it just because maybe your GPA was a little higher or something, or you got a better test score, like that makes you such a better human being. Like, no, that's not how it works. No. So there are definitely some guys that really just kind of grew into themselves, figured themselves out in junior college, and have been fantastic at the next level.
Got a comment here from Paris Dragons. More qualifiers in JUCO than ever before. A lot of truth to that, and not only that, but more. There continues to be Division I transfers. So 4.24 guys who have gone. You mentioned Javion Hamlet, who was at Buffalo, transferred down. I mentioned Marshall Henderson last week, who was at Utah with us and then went to Texas Tech, transfers down. There's so many of those stories of guys that have kind of gone the 4.24 route to reinvent themselves, have a chance to play. The name junior in front of college makes sometimes people think like, it's not a high level of play.
Right.
So knowing that, you know, like we talked about last week, we had a guy get drafted from junior college. So the junior college game and the ability and the talent at that level is way undervalued, way underrespected. And again, like you said, we all have made our mistakes, man. We don't want to be judged off of one bad decision or one move or one thing that's happened along our way. And again, you just love to see continue to see these guys from junior college have such big impacts in programs at the Division I level. And
I think we're going to start, and I don't know what the reasoning for this is, I think we're going to start seeing more junior college guys in those discussions, whether it be the draft, whether it be free agency signings, you know, not necessarily straight from junior college, though I do think somebody that just committed this week has a good shot at that. But and again, I don't know what the reasoning is, but I sit and think about some of the guys that are just, you know, dominating at the Division I level right now that are junior college guys, and thinking that, you know, not only are they going to be in draft discussions, but they're for sure going to be, you know, signing some free agency contracts and things like that afterwards. And I feel like that emphasis and that number is going up. You know, the number of calls I get from NBA teams is going up drastically. I think it's a space that, you know, for whatever reason, somebody has figured out that maybe this is something we should look at. You know, honestly, it probably has to do with things like Jimmy Butler and Jay Crowder and guys like that, where they think, you know, hey, these dudes just kind of have a different mentality about them. They have a different, you know, as James said, put on your hard hat and bring your lunch pail kind of work ethic. And so, you know, that's probably contributed a lot. There's probably a lot more owed to those guys than we realize in regards to the kinds of eyeballs that are being put on kids. I was actually, I got a text when I was in the airport yesterday and from an NBA guy and said, hey, was thinking about you. I'm watching the kid that we have talked about. And, you know, I'm like, geez, all right. So on Thanksgiving, there's an NBA guy watching TV specifically to see this JUCO kid that we had been talking about. So
yeah, I think there's a level of grit that and you know, grit and just not willing to there's a sense of entitlement sometimes that happens with players now, and that's just kind of the way our society is evolving, not necessarily in a good way sometimes. And part about paying your dues that is those old school values and that grit and that I don't care how I have to get it out of the mud mentality that comes from junior college. I mean, we talked about some of these guys again. I mean, Steve Francis, Larry Johnson back in the day, Sam Cassell, Sean Kemp, Ben Wallace, Rayford Austin. We're not talking about guys that aren't good players. We're talking about guys that were major contributors or NBA All-Stars, NBA champions. So I think that part too is just kind of a great part about what's involved with junior college. We're going to take a quick break one more time. Give some shout outs to a few people and give Brandon a rest from having to deal with me. But we got Marcus King, who's going to come on next, former assistant coach, longtime assistant at Lee College in Texas, is now the top assistant at Tennessee Tech. And he is sitting as the head coach right now, as their head coach unfortunately has COVID. He's going to talk about junior college, about his experience, and so many other things as we come back. So thanks so much for tuning in. We'll be back in just a minute. I want to take time to acknowledge one of our partners, Rising Coaches. Every coach wants to rise in their career in one way or another. We're all looking for professional development, access to tools, and relationships that can help us grow and help us advance in our career. Rising Coaches provides just that. You can visit Rising Coaches at www.risingcoaches.com. Their memberships are just $10 a month and provides a genuine community to help you grow and advance in your career.
Welcome to All Access Coaches Corner, where our mission is to serve coaches, share their stories, and spotlight their programs with our host, Brian Burton. A longtime successful college basketball coach, former championship collegiate point guard, husband, and father, Brian is now the Vice President of Rising Coaches Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Alliance for men's basketball, an empowerment coach and founder of B3 Legacy Sports and the All Access Network. Sports broadcaster and host for All Access Coaches Corner and All Access Sports Media, Coach Burton is now using his successes, experiences, and connections to be a point guard in the sports industry at all levels, with a mission to help others to further their success. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and join us in the All Access Coaches Corner.
We're back. We got special guest Marcus King. What's up, Coach? How you doing, man?
Hey, how you guys doing? I'm doing great. Definitely licking my wounds a little bit. We got a little lesson in what the big time level looks like. We just came off a game Wednesday night, Bloomington, Indiana. Had a chance to get the first crack at the Hoosiers for the COVID season, as we're calling it here.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So I know you're sitting in that seat. We'll talk more about your program. We'll talk more about JUCO, but we got to give a little bit of question of just, man, what was that like knowing that you're going to have to make that move over? How did your team adjust? How has the seat been like for you? Is it as hot as they say it is?
It's a little hot, especially when your first opportunity at the divisional level, you're going to Indiana. And you find out probably about, in a kind of in a passive way, oh, by the way, I'm not feeling well. You might have to take the team tomorrow. Okay, cool. And then it's like, oh, you figure it out. So it was definitely a great opportunity. I can't thank our health services enough for making the transition easy in terms of making sure we were compliant with the protocols, make sure we played the game. And then our staff, I got an amazing group of guys I work with. They supported me in everything I needed, great suggestions, and then ultimately trusted my decision-making when it came in. As far as the players, they were great. They all came to me, Coach, we got your back. And so I thought that was a pleasant surprise that this group of young men believe in me enough that they trust my decision-making and my judgment and my voice going forward.
Yes, I know you guys have definitely talked and had a lot of dealings. I'll let Brandon take the next question and talk a little bit about your JUCO time.
So, Coach, talk to us about your JUCO time. Is it a little different than being lead chair at Division I there?
It definitely is. During my JUCO days, I definitely dealt with, I was listening to guys earlier, with a very unique population of JUCO. And you started talking about guys that were, I think I was last chance U before last chance U, but a lot of it's just identity. A lot of times guys you get they've taken on identities in the environment they've grown up in, and they don't understand what success looks like and don't understand how hard it is to maintain. And my big focus always was, when you come to school, I was at Lee College, you're a new person. We're no longer concerned with that guy, that reputation, stereotype, whatever it was that was said about you before you got here. And this is a new day, and you get to reinvent yourself. And a young man that Jamal Jones had been at Ole Miss before he came to us. And I remember I used to call him JJ. And I remember one time coach called him, was talking to him, and he was like, "No, bro, my name is JJ." And it was like a reinvention of himself. And I learned in that moment, these guys get an opportunity to create their own identity. They can be very successful, but it goes back to a lot of trust. And unfortunately, now I'm at the Division I level, and I'm having to explain to a lot of guys, like, I hear everything you're saying, but that's not true, because I was one of those guys. I played junior college and I coached junior college, and there is this stereotype and this negative connotation that goes with it. And then people meet you and talk to you, or they meet that young man and talk to him, like, no, this is a really good guy. So that cloud is moving, though, as you guys discussed, away. And I'm very happy that I can contribute to that, because I'd like to believe I'm a good person. I think people around me that know me, I am. I can be stern hard, but at the same time, junior college is where I learned a lot. And I learned a lot about my own identity. And my character was always tested. I think one thing in junior college, you're always having different challenges thrown at you. And there's not a lot of people around you to protect you from that decision making. And as a coach, you're forced to teach more about life than you are basketball.
Right.
And that's where the challenges become, because, man, I can get his jump shot better, or I can teach him to make life decisions better. And a lot of the growth you see is when they leave you. I watched Chris Olsen play last night at Arizona State. And I remember when that young man, we played against him on a JV team at NA High School. He goes to the college last year. Now he is a guy who's getting minutes at a Pac-12 school. You know, you think about that change. It's amazing. And then a lot of people like, man, he went to junior college. Like, yeah, that guy went to junior college. Not only that, he was at a JV on the team before. So there's a lot of talent. There's a lot of opportunity. And for all the coaches that are in junior college right now, biggest piece of advice I give to you that I've learn all that you can, and don't be afraid to learn more, because I really went back to my junior college days going into Wednesday night. Like, control what you can control. All the things you should tell those guys, here you are. Make sure you practice what you're preaching.
Yeah, absolutely. It's and just I think the diversity of how you have to handle, 13, 15, however many kids you bring in, because junior college is a little weird in that too. Look at some rosters, you're like, how you got 22 guys on there? But handling those different backgrounds, those different stories, those different attitudes and things like that. We talked about coaches last week that, used to be junior college guys. And I think that's something, because you wear so many different hats, you deal with so many different kinds of kids. That's something that you learn, especially in junior college. I know when we first met each other and I'd call you and I'd say, hey, what's the background on this kid? And I'd walk away like, that's a lot to unpack, and it's being able to just kind of work through all of that stuff. And I'm sure that has helped you a ton at the Division I level.
No, it has. I used to tell people when I was at Lee, what do you do? I manage personalities. I think that was the biggest thing. And you have to they have to trust you. I don't know what level you're at with people, but those young men that are in junior college are really vulnerable, because a lot of time adults have failed them before they got there.
Yeah.
And they've told them falsehoods that they truly believed in, they were invested. Now they don't trust you. I don't think people are born bad. I think that's just it's a learned behavior. And if you can get a young person to trust you, as a coach, I feel you have some responsibility to model the behavior that you want. And I got to trust you before you don't trust me. I'm going to meet you where you're at and then try to teach you. And you're not going to save everybody, but then everybody doesn't need saving either. And that's one thing I think at my time at Lee, I learned the most was that if I'm able to model behavior, provide opportunity, if you don't want to take advantage of opportunity, then let me put my energy in someone else. And now that I'm at a Division I level, I'm blessed to work with a great group. And then Coach Belfry's background, he sees the game a little differently too. And so his ideology about basketball and mine aligned well. And I was able to make a great transition to someone who, you're going to be who you are. We're going to give you a fresh start. And that's my same belief too. And we have a group of young men here. We have 2 junior college players on our roster right now, actually 3, that are doing well. And a couple of them, people are like, man, how's he doing? Like, he's doing great. Are you sure? Like, yeah, because there were some questions about their character, and they've gotten here and they've been great. So a lot of it, as you said, just that identity and that opportunity.
Yeah, there's a difference between taking a risk on a guy or doing the work in the background to really know who they are, because there's a whole lot of not necessarily false narratives, but I think some very shallow evaluations of who a lot of these kids are in junior college. There's a lot of surface level where you say, oh, well, he's a bad kid because of X, Y, and Z. And I think, somebody that knows how to really dive into, who they are as a person beyond those surface level stories or, reps or whatever, that's where you can go find those guys that, maybe you wouldn't have normally looked at and really not only have an impact on somebody, but them have an impact on you and your program in a super positive way. Like I was saying, it was that some of those kids that were incredibly successful these last few nights, knowing that coming out of junior college, going into junior college, the rap was really bad. And then coming out of junior college, the rap was, well, they'll never make it.
Right.
And not only are they making it, but like they're killing it. And, if you talk to their coaches, like, yeah, they're not the people that everybody thought they were, or at least they have changed a lot, and matured a lot. And that's where you got to go find those guys.
No, I definitely agree with that. One thing I'm very proud of when I was junior college days is that over 80% of the young men that I recruited there have 4-year degrees. And so it wasn't always fun, but they figured it out. And exactly what you were just saying in terms of there's growth. And I think we all need opportunity to grow, and you can't grow without opportunity. So that's kind of people have to take a chance, do your research, do your homework, and really find out how would you react if you were in those circumstances, that environment, before given an opportunity.
I got one for you, man. So I can show this love to you because this is a good friend of mine here. So let's talk about coaches. So you made the move, right? Sometimes coaches get labeled as whatever they need to labeled as, right? Marcus King, along the way, everybody didn't love Marcus King. Everybody didn't think Marcus King was a lot of people didn't think you'd be doing what you're doing, opening the season as the head coach. Let's be honest. Let's just call it what it is. Let's just call it what it is.
About 99% of the people.
We keep it real.
Let's keep it real.
We keep it real on this show. So that being said, how have you been able to? And let's talk about this too. You're getting your doctorate. Most people wouldn't know that. 99.9% people wouldn't know that or even believe that, right? So you're getting your doctorate. Not many people that are getting their doctorate are junior college assistant coaches. So you were doing that during your junior college time. Not only that, you're recently involved and heavily involved with Coaches for Change, an amazing organization that was put together by coaches, led by Coach Carm at Siena. Talk about that a little bit and just talk about how you've been able to be you and it's paid off for you in a way that most people didn't think would happen.
I think the biggest thing goes back to what we're talking about, identity. My time in junior college was great because my bond, I won't say relationship. People talk about relationships come and go. I'm a guy about bond. Bonds aren't broken. They last forever. My bond with my players allowed me to learn a lot about myself. No, not a lot of people thought I'd be in this position. My perception was very different than the reality of who I am. But I kind of plan that too because I'm about business and I'm about production and success. And those that are around me that aren't falling in line with that, I don't put a lot of energy in. And that's something that was instilled in me by my mom. But being involved in Coaches for Change, working on my doctorate, kind of aligned themselves in terms of just being an advocate. The junior college population is a very marginalized group itself, not just from the basketball, but just academic opportunities, socioeconomic opportunities, and just understanding how to have an awareness to be successful in life. And as I got involved with the doctoral program I was in, actually 4 former players challenged me as I was challenging them to pursue the opportunity, and I did. And the same week that I started the doctoral program, I also had the opportunity to come to the interview for this job. And in my mind, I didn't know if I was able to balance the two, but my own words were used against me. man up above doesn't give you anything more than you can handle. And if you want to do something, you make time and effort to do it. And so my doctorate is going to be in ethical leadership with a social justice emphasis. And so when me and Carm have known each other for years, when he decided that this initiative and movement he was going to try to do, I was all about it. But I wanted to make sure it was not fluff. It was authentic, and that we were really going to try to create change. And the change was going to start within our own backyard, whether it was our program or in coaching, of bringing an awareness that we do have a voice, a large voice, whether you're junior college, Division I, NAIA, you have a large voice and a large audience that you can impact of young people. And so when that opportunity came, it was a no-brainer for me. But again, going back to just watching all those young men when I was in junior college as a coach, that you were in that leadership position, which leadership can be scary because they're listening to every word you say and their future rides on your decision making. And you got to know what research and know what you're talking about, but more importantly, you got to make sure that you're not just saying it, that you actually model the behavior and you do it. So all those things have kind of aligned together for me to get the opportunity. And going back to the original part, I'd never worked to get out of junior college. It wasn't like I get Division I. It was more when the right opportunity came, I would take it. But I wanted it to be with a head coach and a group of coaches I was going to work with. We had similar philosophy that basketball can be a tool for success for a lot of people. And it's not about making it to the NBA. That's great. But getting that degree, getting life experiences, and being ready to be a successful person. A former JUCO alum is actually here. Darius Allen finished his career here, and he's actually in graduate school. And a lot of people were shocked about that. And that's one of the more exciting moments, to have that young man come to me and say, Coach, I want to try this graduate school thing. I know it's going to be hard, but with COVID and all that, I really don't want to take the chance to go across the water. And I was like, wow. And this was a guy that when we got the job here and he transferred, there was a question mark he's going to graduate. And now he's about to complete his first semester of graduate school.
That's amazing. I mean, those stories like that just kind of they're all over the place, but we don't usually hear the stories about Darius Allen, right? Like it's that those are the kinds of things. I mean, gosh, if you could write a book about how people have taken opportunities like that maybe were otherwise looked at as somebody that not only is not going to get an opportunity, isn't deserving of an opportunity or something, these narratives that people write out there and take those opportunities and turn them into something great. I mean, we even look at, a name that everybody knows and in Marshall Henderson and, a junior college guy, a guy that, admittedly himself will tell you that all of the problems and the issues of his own doing and things, and now has this new opportunity to really change himself, but to share his background and to share his story to help other people. And that's amazing. It's an amazing thing that happens when those stories get out there like that.
Marcus, you still there? Can you hear us?
Oh, did we lose him?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, there he is.
I can't hear you, Brian.
Maybe he can hear you, Brandon.
Can you
hear you, Brandon?
You can hear me, but you can't hear Brian?
Yeah.
Probably a good thing.
Okay, I can hear you now. I got you back.
I was just messing with you, man. Just messing with you. Yeah, so talk about what you guys have next at Tennessee Tech real quick and your approach as you kind of figure out, is Coach coming back? Is Coach got to stay out longer? And then how do you kind of figure out how to mesh your own personality and be you, but still do coaches? That's kind of a tricky thing. So talk about that a little bit before we kind of just transition to talking a little more JUCO.
Okay. We play Monday night, a couple of days actually. We're going to play UT Chat here, and right now it doesn't.
Is that a bit of a rival, Coach? I'm assuming because.
Yeah, it's kind of a renewed rivalry. They hadn't played in a few years, but definitely we actually have a player who won't get to play because he's out with COVID from Chattanooga. So, and of course, anytime you get to play in-state game, you want to win.
Right.
It helps with recruiting. It helps in bragging rights. And
right.
Us being a new staff, it helps us establish ourselves.
Right.
So, Coach Bell, I don't know, based upon today, it doesn't look like he'll be back. One thing I give him credit for, he's allowed all of us on staff to be ourselves. And so he's big on leadership, not just with myself or the coaching staff or the players. Like, be who you are, own who you are, and
Right.
have ownership in every situation. So meshing my personality, I think that was more of last year. He's allowed all of us to identify ourselves and our roles of how we're doing things. So the biggest thing for me is just continuing to, we have what we call the code. Know your job and do your job with great energy and effort, and just continue to pour upon the guys to know your job and stick to the code. And that's what we'll be doing. There's nothing new that we need to reinvent. Nobody needs to get any taller. Nobody's got to get any faster. It's more about everybody's just got to buy in more to what we're doing. And going back to United Indiana, go back and look at it, and they're a great team. They're going to have a successful year. It's going to be a monster. Obviously, we know the Big Ten Conference is tough, but they've improved. Their freshmen are good too. But for 30 of that 40-minute game, and that's why it's a 40-minute game,
Yep.
it was good. We were there. We were very competitive. But at a 10-minute stretch, it was ugly.
Yep.
And it got ugly quick. It went from 2 to 4 to 6. It's like, oh no, it's 30. But I challenge the guys. You're not getting beat by 50. You're not going home with a 50-point loss. This is a time for you to establish yourself. And they calmed down, and I was able to grab their attention, and they moved forward. So the biggest part for me is just continue to do what I've been doing. I've had some guys in the business that I've had the opportunity to be mentored with throughout the years, and they picked the phone and called me immediately when it got out that I was going to be the acting head coach. They watched the game and called me after, and gave me some great pieces of advice. The biggest thing was continue to be yourself. And I thank Coach Champagne because without him, none of this would be possible. I was out of a job before he called me. And I'll never forget, he called me I resigned on a job on Tuesday. I was ready to be done with coaching. I had enough. And he called me on a Thursday. Rook Montgomery, rest in peace, former AD in Navarro. He was the catalyst to Roy, and Roy calling me. Roy calls me on a Thursday. My interview was about 2 minutes. He said, "You sound like my type of guy," and I was hired. A week later, I showed up at Lee College, and I sat in his office, and, me and him, it was a godsend. We were perfect for each other because he had been there for 16 years, banging his head against the wall. He felt I'd done a lot to establish a great foundation, and he had gave me an opportunity to go out and be myself. And so that has helped me, and that impact and that opportunity has helped me now. It's a difference, but it's very similar in terms of you got to find a way to be you. As we say, kids say now, you got to keep it real because they recognize fake in a heartbeat.
Coach, I didn't get to watch the game yet because I was on the road. Suit or polo?
You're breaking up on me.
Suit or polo? I didn't get to watch the game because I was on the road.
So this is a great segue. We actually we wore a long sleeve tee. I might have to wear a polo. Everybody knows me. I'm an anti-polo guy. I haven't worn a polo probably since I was a freshman in high school. But here with the social justice impact and what's going on, our players, Austin Harvell, actually, when all this came out, we were on Zoom calls with our guys, making sure that they shared with us how they were feeling. And he just made a statement, "Coach, I just feel like enough is enough." And so that resonated with me. And then we kept talking to them. What do you want to do? What do you want to do to show where you're at and what your thoughts are about what's going on in America? We didn't want to do anything. We wanted to do something that was our own identity, that was unique to us. So we kind of tried to stay away from the Black Lives Matter, which is a great movement and all that, but have something that made sense for this campus. And so we took the phrase "enough is enough," and we kind of built a T-shirt that we wore that night. And it was really deep in terms of the guys. They put out a message that actually went to our president, our AD signed off on. And Mark's done a great job with us. He's very supportive. President Holman has been great. And it was just more about they've had enough of white versus black, enough of the intolerance that they have for the injustice that's going on. And they wanted us to make an impact. So we have these T-shirts we're wearing during the year, and we wore those the first night to bring out a lot of awareness and just for here, for everybody, but make sure we start in Cookeville, Tennessee. Cookeville is not the most diverse place. So for these young men to unite together and want to send out that message that we are Tennessee Tech University on this campus will not tolerate, social injustice, and we're ready to move forward with creating opportunities for social justice and the different things they're going to do. It was great to do, and so when we had that opportunity to do it, that's what we did for our first game. Now, going forward, we're trying to stay away from the polos, which I'll figure some other stuff out. So if I have to wear one, don't hold that against me. I was forced.
That's great, Coach.
Coach, we got a few more minutes before you roll, man. Obviously, your time at Lee prepared you to be a lot more ready for where you're at now because you got a chance to really coach there too. So we'll talk a little bit about the development of a coach at junior college level, and then you got to tell us a funny story. You may even be able to tell us too. We got a little bit of time, and you spend enough time at junior college. You got to have at least 2 appropriate ones that you can share.
Yeah, that's the key word, appropriate. My favorite junior college story would be 2013. We have I'll call it the shot for us. We're playing Blinn. We came in kind of on a high, won about like 7 or 8 games in a row. We're down with about I think 7 points with 3 minutes left, and we get it tied ball game, and we're going to run a play, and I'm on the sideline yelling and screaming, no, Coach Champagne's going one play. I'm saying do this or do that, and Jamal Jones just raises up from 30 feet, as nonchalant as can be, and drills a 3, and that's how we win. And so after the game, we're in the locker room, everybody's celebrating, and as calm as can be, JJ just looks at me, he's like, we work on that every day, Coach. That's what you told us to do, is to be ourselves. So in that moment, you felt like that was a big moment, but you've taught enough to these players that this is just what we do. That was very gratifying on a lot of levels because nobody ever thought that Lee College was going to make it to the national tournament coming out of Region 14, which is, it's tough to come out of. But more importantly, those guys believed in what we were saying. That was a good one. And then another good one is every time you go to the airport in junior college, you're hoping that the guy got on the plane because you don't always know if he got on the plane or not. And there's been many a time that you go to the airport and you're like calling, doesn't pick up, text, his iPhone is still green, and you're like, your heart is it's like, where the hell is he at? But luckily for me, they've always shown up and they've been there. But those are some good opportunities. And then actually, had a young man, I won't drop his name, came on a visit, came to school, and we're just talking. And he did not know he was at Lee College. So Dylan was AAU coach. He thought he was somewhere else visiting. And then when it sunk in, he's like, Coach, I want to go take that other visit. I'm going to come here. And I'm like, hold on, what? Who? What? Huh? So in junior college, you get a lot of those. Those are my appropriate stories. Now, all three I can tell you.
It's never good when you text the iPhone and it's green. Never
Not
good.
at all. Not at all.
Especially when you're looking for them.
See, that's the thing about recruiting. See, in junior college, recruiting is really having a relationship. Like people, it's cliche in Division I, but you better have a relationship because they ain't picking up that phone because they don't understand. In junior college, they don't understand kind of how this thing works a little bit. You call, they answer, they text you back and all that. If they don't want to fool with you, they answer the phone. It'll go. It may not go green. They'll just, decline your call. They don't respond to a text message. Ty Outlaw, that was at UNC Greensboro, came to Lee, and then he went on to Virginia Tech. I talked to Ty the Friday after the Final Four. Great conversation for about 30, 40 minutes. I get off the phone. I never talked to Ty Outlaw until June 1st when Ty Outlaw decides, hey, Coach, can you come see me? My high school coach wants to meet you. Great. Get out there, do the whole deal. I don't hear from him. And then I get a text message, Coach, can you pick me up from the bus station? My bus gets in at 2 in the morning in Houston. Okay, you coming? Yeah, I'm coming. That was the recruitment of Ty Outlaw. Yeah, so it's not, again, he's like, I trusted you and all this. I didn't know that. So it's a very unique thing. And that's one of, I think one of the advantages of coming from junior college is that every day is a new day. And you know that it can always change.
Roll with the punches.
Yeah, you got to.
One thing about junior college I can say too is like, and Ross Hodge, who I work for, and we talk about every now and then on the show, at Paris, it's like, you just got to get them to the game.
That's it. That's it.
There's so much drama that was happening that year I was there. The most drama I've ever dealt with in combined seasons, right? But if you could just get them in the game, we happened to be really good that year. I think we were 6th in the country, so we were really good. But it was like if you knew the stuff that happened behind the scenes, get them to the game, and all things can kind of go well. I will say I have one victory that I can say that I have over Marcus in my lifetime. One of the best recruiters at the junior college level, hands down. My first year going into Paris Junior College, I'm like obsessed with this kid from Houston named Jonathan Simmons.
Yep.
Lee is right there by Houston, and I'm with the kid, and Coach King's number comes up. I'm like, man, I don't know how to dodge this guy. So, lo and behold, we ended up signing him at Paris. It was one of those things where it was like, it was one of those things for me in my career, and I know this, he doesn't even know this, but for me, it's like, man, I might be on to just a little something. If I could just continue some of this success, because I know that guy is really good at what he does. So if we were able to get this kid, then that says I might have a chance to be decent at this. Now, I didn't sign near as many illustrious players as my man King, but I did get to beat him on one. At least I can say that.
You did beat me on that one, and I have to acknowledge that. And I was trying hard. I was trying real because him and Josh Mishaw were friends, and I was like, Mishaw, just call him, man. Come on. But no, heck of a player. I appreciate the love there. Now, I think the biggest thing I learned in junior college was develop a bond with these young men and see beyond the surface, get to know who they are. Because there's a lot more that they have to offer than you know. And they taught me a lot. I think I learned more from them than I ever gave to them. And I'll always be indebted to Coach Champagne for what he allowed me to have an opportunity to do. He did not hold his tongue, nor did he hold my hand. You know, he let me know what was expected of me. He gave me freedom to do my thing, but he never held my hand. He let me fall, never quite on my face, but, you know, he let me put myself out there. And never forget going in 2013 too, kind of turned to me, championship game, we're playing Navarro. And he looks at me, so I hope you got a game plan and got this thing figured out because I'm just going to sit here and cheer. And I'm like, yeah, I got you. But me and him still talk. He's doing great. This is last year. He's retiring in May. And he's going to go off and enjoy the rest of his life. But Roy Champagne, if you're listening, if you're not, I'll make sure he watches this. That's my brother. I appreciate him more than he knows. And he also he's a very strong man because he took a chance on all those guys he didn't know those guys. I knew those guys that I would bring in. Right. He would just look at me like, are you sure? I'm like, Coach, he's fine. And he trusted me. So Region 14, Coach Burton, as you can appreciate, there's nothing like it on earth. I know everybody talks about these other regions and all that, but Region 14 is unique because there's a lot of Hall of Fame coaches in that they've come through there. But more importantly, there's a lot of different talent that comes through there. Every team had their own identity, coaching style. I mean, going back to Lon Morris, Coach Dodson, what they did there. You never had a night off, and you had to play. You really had as a player, you had to play. As a coach, you had to coach. You know, you couldn't just walk out there and think you're going to win. So, Region 14, thank you too for letting me cut my teeth and learn a lot. Yeah, man, awesome having you on. We got another Region 14 assistant coach now who's going to have a success story similar to yours in his own way. Cody Hopkins is coming on next. So, my man, Cody. Cody's a good dude. We'll segue to Cody. But, man, thanks so much, man. Good luck the rest of the way. Look forward to seeing if you're wearing that polo. See if we can get a picture of that. We're not going to let those shots come out, man. Thank you, guys. And Coach Burton and Brandon, as always, you guys allow me to be more famous and infamous, and I appreciate that. Talk to you guys soon.
Be good, Coach.
And stay safe. All right, we're working on our JUCO advocate commercial. We don't have it yet. We're just going to take a regular 30-second break, come back with Cody Hopkins. C-Hop, what up, man?
What's up, fellas? Good morning. Good afternoon.
Yo.
We got BG's birthday, man. We gotta make it fun.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Exactly. So now you know. So we're gonna make this fun, man. But Cody Hopkins, assistant coach Navarro Junior College. Head coach is Grant McMillan. Shout out to Grant. Cody's been a Division I ops guy, Division I assistant, a Division I special assistant to the head coach. He's been a special assistant to the manager. He's been a little bit of everything. So Brandon dropped his bomb, his JUCO advocate bomb last week, and he talked it on the show. And the top 10 players, and I think a couple of them Cody may know. So I'm going to step out of the way and let you guys talk about that a little bit.
Well, you can't go anywhere yet. We got to congratulate you on adding to your family, Burton.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that.
You got too much time on your hands during the quarantine. That's what happened.
I guess we actually do love each other after all. That's a good thing.
No doubt. Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I'll get out of the way and get some birthdays here. But I do hear the divorce rate's going up, so that means it's a good thing we got another one coming.
Yeah, we. I think I only got yelled at by 2 people about the list, which is a lot less than I thought I was going to. There's probably some that wanted to and just chose not to. But
you got a tough job, man. You got a tough job.
Somebody hit me up. I said, "Why are you worried about lists? Stop it."
It's to be honest, it's worse for the players. I mean, if they're at the top, then that's something they feel like they don't have to work as much.
Right.
I appreciate it. It helps us coaches out
it's COVID times. Like, I don't know what else to do. Let's make a list.
Right. No question.
But yeah, got a couple guys on there that you might be somewhat familiar with. Some long, lanky fellers.
Yeah, no, Suleiman Dombia. You've got him on there, and Akul Wayne. 2 really guys that have kind of found themselves in junior college. As we've talked before about the international track, some of these guys come over here not knowing what to expect. Yeah. And instead of having the EYBL circuit and all the guys, giving them Instagram likes and things like that, they get to junior college and really just kind of start working. They've got a gym that they have access to. They've got an apartment, they've got meals, and they just get to work. And I think 2 of those guys that you have on your list that committed in our early period to Arkansas and TCU, that's just a product of their work since they've got here. Quick story about them, you probably don't even know this. During this COVID period, you worry about your guys having all this time off and not having basketball as a place that they can go kind of blow some steam on for whatever it is. They're living in different parts of the country. We're shut down. Forget the basketball side. Can you get outside of the apartment and stuff like that? And they had 2 total different experiences with COVID. So they lived with an aunt in New Rochelle. So in March, I'm sitting here in Huntsville, and I'm sitting here going, okay, he's trying to manage some of his recruitment. We're talking about next year. Everything's going well. And I'm watching all the news channels talk about New Rochelle. And I was like, well, hell, we may not have. You got a problem. Right. And can you taste? Can you smell? Every day, same question. And that was kind of the epicenter. And, he was never really concerned about that. He goes, yeah, I'm just trying to get my workouts in. And so then he would send me these videos. Sule was taking gallons of water and running up stairways in an apartment complex in New Rochelle, New York. He was going to Yankee Stadium and running stairs like he was in a Rocky movie. Like he was just whatever he could do to keep himself in shape and not let COVID take advantage of him and his future, he was doing. And he actually probably was in the best shape of his life. So we come back on day 1 to start the school year, and we run a 6-minute mile for the guards and a 7-minute for the bigs. Sule comes in at 5.5 minutes on day 1 after like 4.5
looking around
months.
at everybody just gassed out of their mind.
And so that his place on that list is I think very deserving. I know he appreciates it because of the work he's put in. And then on the flip side, AK is what we call him, Akul Wayne, who David Patrick has known for a long time, had committed to UC Riverside, and when he went to Arkansas, that was a little bit of a firestorm when that happened, but we're able to calm it down. And I think he knew he wanted to be a Razorback, but he had been in Australia during the shutdown, and they have different levels, and they had kind of gotten a little different hold on their lockdown, and he hadn't been outside or anywhere near a basketball in almost 2.5 months, and he left our place at about 217 pounds and showed up at 248. And so he got to campus, and I called David Patrick and I said, we got a problem, man. We got a big problem, bigger than it needs to be. And to his credit, he was scared. He literally, like, I'm looking at him in the mirror in the weight room. He's looking at me and I'm like, man, this is going to be tough. And so, but
it's crazy how different some of those guys are, because there's other ones like Big Oz up at Iona. He left it to whatever he was, 210 or something. And he came back at like 180, the other way.
No question. Brian Washington did too.
Yeah.
He went home and he was like 240. He was too chunky. And then his mom, an old military vet, just great lady, she put him on a diet, made him run. He loses 28 pounds. And the good news is AK is staying Christmas with Brian. And so he doesn't know what he's walking into. But Miss Washington is not playing any games. So he's going to be in good shape when he gets back. But no, those are our returning big men that everybody talks about. We've got a good roster, but appreciate you guys giving them the notice they deserve. And I'm looking forward to hopefully coaching them.
One of the things that I missed the most for when we had to change things up was not having J48 this year. Yep. And one of the kids that I was really, really looking forward to spending time with and getting to know was Sully, because his story is so unique and different. Anybody that knows me knows how much his story means to me and a lot of the things that we do. And it's just like, it's incredible to see a kid like him when he signs that scholarship with TCU. And if you know his story and think of all of the things that had to go right for him to get to sign that, and the things that he had to overcome and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's such an incredible, story that I want to talk to him more about later on in regards to really showing, like, this is JUCO Appreciation Month that we're doing here. Like, just like some other guys we talked about before, you will never hear the name Suleiman Doumbia without junior college.
Right.
And not only from a basketball standpoint, as far as like the opportunity that provided him, but just life in general.
No question.
Guys like him, some of the kids that we've met and in our trips and things like that, without junior college basketball, like we're not talking about, well, you just go get a job and, you go about your life like normal, you go to college and whatever. Life takes a drastic detour without junior college for kids like him. And,
you've done a really good job of shining a light on that too. Some really good success stories, Gideon being one, obviously, that you're really close to, and you build these relationships with these kids because their family's not here, they're still going to go through the ups and downs of life. Let's forget about basketball. Let's forget about their immigration status. Let's just talk about anything else that comes at you, who you're going to talk to, who you're going to lean on, and things like that. And, I'm single, not married. And I think I have a lot of time on my hands. So does, the rest of our staff. I think Grant does a great job incorporating his family into it. He's got a son that worships these guys and spends a lot of time around them. And his wife does a great job, Emily, fixing meals and making it a home environment. DJ Pavlovich, who's been at Navarro for, I think, 18 years now.
Yeah.
But he does a great job dedicating his time to these guys. And so we have 4 or 5 international guys that have come on campus with not knowing what to expect from a junior college, because there's so many things you hear before you get here. It could be a horror story, are you sleeping on cots? What are you doing? And then they get here and they're like, man, this is actually perfect. It's a launch, it's a launching pad. It's not something where you have to go through all these trials in the public eye. It's not like you have to do things with a whole bunch of people watching you. You kind of get to feel your way around a little bit, get comfortable. And I think that's what makes these guys successful, is to get comfortable where they're with their surroundings. They're feeling good, and then they take off on the basketball side.
Well, and a guy like Sully brings in a different level of appreciation. It was just like Gideon, where, I think about, like, okay, you're coming from Minna, Nigeria to, you're landing in Dallas, and kind of like our podcast with Francisco Elson, when he was talking about, like, coach picked him up in Dallas and then they drove away. from Dallas. And he kept looking back at Dallas going, wait, isn't that Texas right there? And, he shows up in Kilgore. But, like Gideon, when he got to New Mexico and, say, hey, you need anything? You good? Whatever. And he's like, this is amazing. And I'm like, I don't know if I've heard Hobbs, New Mexico described as amazing very often. They got a great setup there and everything, but, come on now. And Sully shows up and I mean, I'm sure that his level of appreciation for every day that he gets to, have the security of guys like you and his coaches and his teammates. And he gets to do the thing that he loves, and he gets to go to class, and he gets to eat, and he gets to do all these things that we just take for granted every day.
No doubt. Sule, I told this story. They did a nice little piece on him in the Star Telegram. His immigration, he was deported once, and that was kind of like he felt like he was let his people down back home, because when you go away, you're expected to come back and be somebody.
Right.
That's the whole purpose of going somewhere. And a lot of times you get in the hands of the people that don't have your best interest, and that was the case with him. And they skated by on some of his paperwork, and it ended up where he had to spend some time back in the Ivory Coast. Developed a plan for him to try to go play in Thailand. And I don't know that coming back to the United States was ever something he really thought would happen.
It usually never does, ever.
No,
not
ever.
Even close.
No, it's not. And trust me, it was one of those things where you get a project mind, and you're like, okay, we're going to make this happen. You start
Right.
filing some things and speaking to some attorneys. And unfortunately, we had a former teammate of his. When I was out of basketball in San Antonio, I got an opportunity to watch him as a 15 and 16-year-old. And he was with James John Marie at the time, who I'm close to. And so we were able to establish a trust, and it was kind of like, hey, I don't know if this is going to work, all right, but we're going to give it a try. And I believe good things happen to good people. And so I'm going to exhaust all efforts and see what happens. And he had an embassy appointment, and we had printed off all these documents after speaking to the attorneys and meeting a threshold. And man, he calls me, I think it's 4 a.m. there. He's got to get up and get on a bus. He's not going far, but the traffic in Thailand is ridiculous. So he has to be on a bus for about an hour and a half to get there by 7 a.m. Wanted to be there on time for his appointment. And I think that was about 10 o'clock at night. And I was in Oklahoma City visiting family, kind of waiting on the call. And he calls me, he goes, Coach, they let me. I'm in. And I was like, just a ball of emotions. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, I'm trying to be professional. Like, of course you are. And I was like, wow, this is nuts. What do you mean? You mean it worked? And he was like, yeah, no. And just to hear the appreciation, and there's a picture of him when he shows up at the airport with a fanny pack and just a grin, ear-to-ear smile. He got on campus, and from day one, he's been somebody that our administrators and teachers, everyone loves. And he talks about Navarro, like it is his home, and he will for a long time. And we have benefited much more than he has, and he doesn't see that right now, because
that's the craziest part of those things. They all just can't stop thanking.
No
and
question. You're
yeah. No question. As soon as you get one of those pits in your stomach for that embassy visit, right? Like where you're not sleeping. It's 4 o'clock in the morning, and you've been laying there since 10 o'clock, and those. Once you have one of those pits in your stomach and a kid makes it, like that changes a lot of things for you, because it's a level of it's a hard level of stress to describe, because it's not, did you pass a class? It's not, did you get the test score or, whatever. It's somebody behind a window is flipping through documents faster than they can possibly read them, and deciding in that moment whether or not your life goes one way or another. Yep. And one way has a lot of positive upside to it. Yep. And the other way has almost no upside to it. And
completely change the trajectory of a young man's life. I mean, with one decision. And to be honest, like I said, I go back. I'm a big believer, and I think good things happen to good people. And Sule is somebody that is a good person in his heart, always has been. And so you kind of got to put faith where it belongs and just kind of give them everything they can to be successful. And then once it happens and he gets here, then the real job becomes, okay, now this guy took a chance on us to come here. I got to give everything I can to make sure that he's successful. And that's the part that's made me a better coach is understanding, okay, listen, this is something, this is serious. This isn't just like a normal recruit. This kid risked his entire journey to come here, and it's my job to pay it back.
100%.
Awesome. I don't even know where to go from there, man. I feel like you like shed a tear and like have like a Hallmark card.
No, you're right.
I mean, it's a different thing, and like so many of the guys we've talked about on here is that without junior college, none of this exists. And sometimes
coaches and players alike, like Marcus said, man, that's what it is.
Yep. I butt heads with the NJCAA every once in a while on some different rule things and stuff, and we'll continue to do so. Cody and I have been talking about a kid for a while now that I'm just gonna keep butting heads with the NJCAA on, but there are so many incredible things that junior college can provide. I think there are some more that they could work towards in the NJCAA as far as expanding even that opportunity a little bit. And I hope they really see and hear stories like Sule and Gideon and domestically here. I mean, we run that Undiscovered Showcase up in Chicago, and the stories that come out of Chicago because of junior college, right? Like kids that would have disappeared into wherever, without the opportunity that junior college provides. And, there's Alonzo Verge down there at Arizona State is starting for the Sun Devils, is going to be a pro, is, he's killing it down there. And, he'll be the first one to tell you, the difficulties that he had growing up coming out of Chicago and things like that, and has had to overcome, and the opportunity that junior college provided to him, where I'm sure he sometimes is sitting by the pool there in Tempe and just kind of goes like, how did I wind up here?
No question. So. And he's having success. And I think, I enjoyed listening to James and Marcus earlier. They hit on a lot of good points. And one of the things that Marcus kept talking about was, Coach Pelfrey says, be yourself, allowing those guys to be themselves. And I've worked on Division I staffs that haven't had a lot of junior college experience, and they don't understand that they're trying to place somebody and make them something that they're not. And that's the worst thing you can do for a junior college young man is try to take them and completely change everything about them. Because number one, who they were was pretty good, or else you wouldn't have signed them. But secondly, allowing them to be themselves, but also kind of grow incrementally, not, exponentially right away. Just say, hey, take these base hits, hit singles, and improve your life off the floor. And eventually those guys will be successful for your team. And so I think that's the important part is when you have guys and they go on to the next level, is that those coaches understand what junior college kids are bringing to your program, both good and bad. And that they allow them to keep a part of themselves that's made them successful to that point. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think you guys both touched on it, and everybody's been on, just players and coaches alike, right? So Marcus talked about not having a job when he got hired as a junior college assistant. We both know, me and Cody know our stories of, we both actually got hired at some point in time by Ross Hodge. That's kind of how I first met Cody. He was a Paris Dragon, only for a couple of weeks.
2 months, man. 2 months. Come on.
He went to Indian Hills. Had a great experience there. But yeah, Cody's had a ride. But no, all of us. I mean, I think that's the beautiful part about being able to develop as a coach is there's not as many cameras, there's not as many eyes. You get way more opportunity to make mistakes, right? And then you get to grow. And then next thing you know, you kind of get into a groove where you understand yourself better. You have more confidence. You have more understanding of what not to do. And it's the same for players. A lot of these guys, they wouldn't even be accepted into Division I universities or universities from the beginning. But, once they get those opportunities and you grow, and all of a sudden academically now you know what to do, and socially you know how to act, and basketball-wise you know how to really be a successful college basketball player. So next thing you know, there's a confidence that grows in you, similar to what you see in some of these transfers that go to smaller schools that weren't even thought of. Next thing you know, they're transferring up and having all this success. It's just having that ability to be able to not have as much eyes on you, not have as much pressure, and just kind of figure some things out. The other part about junior college, you get a whole month of games in October normally that you get to play in 3 games a weekend. So you're getting so many more games than normal. I remember when I was at Collin County, we used to sell the freshmen. We used to recruit qualifiers. You know, Jim Sagona does his program, a legend in his own right. What he's done at Collin County, he's been there, started the program. He's been there over 30 years, but he recruits a lot of qualifiers because academically their school is hard. So part of the sell is like, well, you get to come in here and start as a freshman and have a chance to go somewhere else and start and be a 4-year guy. So now, for example, the head coach at Texas A&M Commerce, Jarrett Von Rosenberg, who had Division I offers, he comes to Collin County. He starts his freshman year with us, is all conference. Then he goes to Hartford. He starts all 3 years there and had success. So that's one story, but there's a bunch of those. So just love the idea that junior college, you get a chance to grow and make some mistakes and not have to be looking over your shoulder or end up on ESPN or a blog site.
No, and you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about that. This is my second tour in junior college, and there was a gap in the middle there of about 8 or 9 years in Division I that I spent some time at some great places. But my first trip at Indian Hills was really about, you know, how fast can I get out of here and get to Division I? I was 26 years old, and that was the goal. I was going to be a head coach by the time I was 30, 33 or something like that. It was completely ridiculous. But you know, going through that and then coming back the second time around, I really appreciated the innocence and being humbled about it's fun to coach basketball. It's fun to be around these guys that need these second opportunities. And it's kind of given me life. And I wouldn't have this opportunity. I'm very thankful. You know, everyone knows that Coach Grant and I are close friends. He's one of the best people I've ever been around. And it kind of goes back to the old adage, you know, you got to treat your GAs and your managers right because that you'll be working for them someday. Well, that's the damn truth because that's what happened at Navarro. You know, it's funny because I can remember Grant coming in my office. I think it was my second year at TCU as an ops guy, and he had been there as an undergraduate. And we had 3 GAs, J.D. Pollock, who's now at San Diego, shout out. They just beat UCLA. And then Chip Cunningham, who's been with Coach Christian, he's at Boston College. Shout out to them, got a big W over Rhode Island. And Grant, the 3 of those guys were the GAs that were always getting me out of trouble and saving my butt because the ops job is no easy task. And, you know, so we had a great relationship then. And fast forward, you know, 10, 11 years, and I'm at a prep school in South Carolina, kind of trying to reinvent myself a little bit and didn't know exactly which direction my career was going to take. And I got a call from Michael Landers and never heard of Michael Landers, didn't know him. And he's one of my mentors and great friends now. And he was like, listen, I've talked to 2 people and they've said that I need to talk to you about coming back to Texas. I think you can really help our program. And he said Chip Cunningham and Grant McMillan. And Grant happened to be the head coach at Panola in the league, who he was friends with. And Chip was with him at Trinity Valley for a brief time. And so, you know, I talk about that for any young coach that's listening. You know, if you're, you know, making your way up the food chain and coaching, you got to remember how you got there and those guys that are working with you and for you, that eventually those guys are going to be in positions to help you. And so it's important to make sure you give those guys their flowers while you're working with them and treat them the right way because the next year Grant ends up coming in Navarro and we get the opportunity to work together. And he has empowered me and given me so much responsibility, more so than I had in Division I. He trusts me. I trust him. And that's an experience that we all need. That's what you want to do when you're coaching. You want to be in those type of relationships and staffs that it is, you know, not just one voice and everybody sits down and falls in line. It's a group effort, and that's something that's been a ton of fun.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. I love that you went back down memory lane, man. Definitely not many people can say they make the JUCO stints that you have, but, man, the amount of experience that you've gotten from that, you've been in the highest level, now you're back in junior college, and to have the approach that you have it's no wonder why you have 2 of the top 10 players in the country over there at Navarro. It makes sense. Looking forward to seeing what you guys do this year. Hope you guys have a season. Hope we all have.
Amen. Amen.
You got to leave us with at least 1 or 2 funny JUCO stories from first stint or second stint.
Oh man!
Don't act like you don't have any, because we know you do.
All right. Well, I'll make
the PG version. The PG version.
I'd say we've had 3 guys on here that got a lot of non-PG version stories that they could tell. And they're digging around in their brains for the PG ones.
Yeah,
like, no,
you can be PG-13.
No.
PG-13.
That's exactly what I've been doing in my head.
A lot of no's.
Since I listened to James and Marcus, I was like, man, I don't know how I can come up with a tangent. I'll give you a couple. One is someone we all know who's one of my close friends and a voice of reason for a long time, Ross Hodge. Obviously, everyone knows, the success he's had in junior college. But that was my first job, my first real job. I was coaching Team Texas, AAU team. We had Willie Warren, Rodney Clark, Chris Babb, all these guys. And I was on the circuit, and I interviewed with him, and he hires me. I get there in May or somewhere around in there and spend 2 months and signed him a couple players, and we hit it off. We had a great relationship. And then I got a call from the coach at Indian Hills, Jeff Kidder, who's a really good coach at the time. And, they had just been number 1 in the country, I think, the year before. Had a couple kids go to Northern Colorado, and it was going to be 2.5 times my salary, totally different gig in another region of the country. And it was the week before school started, and we had just planned about how to get all the kids to campus in Paris. And so, like, he's sitting in the office, and I didn't know how to do this. Like, okay, am I supposed to tell him that I might be leaving in 3 days? Am I supposed to not say anything? And how's this going to work? And I really like this guy, so I don't want to piss him off. It's probably going to happen. And so the first thing he had on the list was to drive to, I think it was Hattiesburg. I had to take a kid, take him home, and then from summer school, there was going to be a week off, and I didn't know how I was going to do that because I was supposed to be in Ottumwa, at the same time. And so I was like, I don't know. How do I tell him I can't do that? And so finally I went in, I was distraught, and I said, hey, man, look, here's the deal. I got this opportunity. He kind of looked at me. And he was like, well, you're going to drive him back. And I was like, that's like 13 hours round trip, And I was like, okay, I'll do that. And so I drove all the way there, drove all the way back because I didn't have any, wiggle time. Went and got my stuff there, and then about a month and a half, almost 2 months go by, and I don't hear from him. I thought I pretty much killed that relationship. And he calls me at the end of September, and he's like, hey. I was like, what's up? And he said, all right, Chuck Funches and Livingston are pretty good. And so I'm going to let you off the hook on this one because I'd rather have them than you anyway. And I said, that's exactly right. As long as we know our worth, and we can keep it simple like that, then we're going to be in good shape.
Oh, that was awesome. That's awesome. Cody, thanks so much for joining us, man. Happy holidays to you. Be safe out there. Somebody gave a comment. I got to put this up real quick. You got to
listen to him, man.
I guess you got a new nickname. It says Cody with the red beard, the JUCO Bill Walton.
I have always wanted to hang out with Bill Walton. Maybe we can get that going. So.
Maybe we can get.
You guys be good, Brandon, Brian. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yep, thanks, man. B, another successful journey. Week number 2, we pulled it off, man. What do you think?
I like it. It.
No
Keep it rolling.
No doubt. We'll see you guys next week. You can find us on YouTube at All Access Network. Please subscribe. Sign up for the alerts. We're here every Friday, most of the time, same time. If we have a remix, you'll be able to see the schedule that drops on Sundays. Check out the Live Period podcast by JUCO Advocate and Friends. And check out the All Access Coaches Corner podcast that drops today. Have a great weekend. Be safe and watch a lot of college hoops. Peace.